Didn't break me, didn't stop me. It didn't kill me, didn't drop me. Yeah, I can still feel my heartbeat like.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are connected today with us here live or later on YouTube, where we are going to have all of our workshops. We are welcoming you to creative workshops that All Dance International has brought to you, looking for actually working together in this process of creating great choreographies and great competitive choreographies. The idea is for us is to give a clear and broader view of each one of our techniques and modalities. These 20 workshops that we have designed especially for you will take part and will be accompanying us, our expert judges in every one of these 20 workshops. Our staff that is committed and actually very aligned and passionate about dance and with the all dance principles and goals. And let me check how this is sounding. Okay. Better? Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. So, as I was saying, these 20 workshops are designed specially to achieve and to help work together to achieve every one of our goals as a community of dance and as All Dance International. We are always creating methods and process that will guarantee all the fulfillment and that you can actually get where you want in dance, grow inside dance, and all of the dance industry grows and the dance studio industry as well. So these workshops have the goal of providing all the knowledge and all the opportunity for this to happen, but together, like a team. Now, I want a special thanks to Maria Fernanda Castro, our All Dance International General Director, for this initiative that is one of the elements that is having a huge impact in the industry and is not only bringing one workshop, but as you can see, we're bringing 20 workshops with every one of our specialty judges and staff that is dedicated and passionate about this work and about everything that we stand for as a team and as an organization. So thank you very much for making this possible and for taking care of the well-being and always having new strategies to come for All Dance International and for the teaching and dance industry in general. So today we are on our third workshop that we will be having a very special guest with us that will be sharing all his knowledge, all of his expertise, and all of his experience. That's going to give us a very broader view and is going to maybe clear some doubts about some of the techniques, some of the modalities that will help you in your creative process. Because knowledge is one of the fundamental elements that we are going to need in this creative process. When we think about creativity, it comes to mind words like, let's say, imagination, originality, diverse thinking, creative thoughts. So all of these elements are actually the knowledge that's going to fuel and ignite that creativity. So the knowledge and the elements we bring to you today are fundamental and very important for all of that creative process. And when we are presented with certain elements and things that will restrict sometimes elements, it's about the creativity of how you approach all of these elements and how you approach every one of these visions. So that is part of all of this originality, this a creative process. So how we work with all this information, that's going to be the tricky part, and that's where all your creativity, all of that imagination is going to come in hand. Now, without further ado, I would like to present to you and give a warm welcome to Andres Rodriguez, our expert in ethnic dances, that's a great passionate about these dances, about dance, of always studying to keep on top, to keep everything about ethnic dances come to life every day in every part of the world. So he's a very important part of our team and of the All Dance organization. So I would like to welcome him today and welcome you guys. He is not very fluent in English right now. Very soon you'll probably hear him, but for now I'm going to help him out translating. So he's going to be speaking in Spanish and I'll be translating. So be a little patient, that we'll get to all the information that's very vital for this workshop and for these ethnic dances in All Dance International. Welcome, bienvenido Andrés.
Muy buen día, tardes, noches a todos los que están conectados en este fabuloso seminario el día de hoy, en donde vamos a estar hablando un poco acerca de las danzas étnicas y esos elementos que se deben tomar en cuenta al momento de elaborar las coreografías para presentar en nuestro queridísimo campeonato All Dance International.
Of course. Very welcome. Likewise to all of you. Thank you for being here, sharing this workshop with him, where he's going to be sharing all of these elements that is going to give you a clear perspective of all these dances and all the elements that are very important inside the process and recognizing these ethnic dances around the world. So without more wait, we're going to start with all these details of ethnic dance.
Bien, las danzas étnicas, ¿verdad? Son un grupo de bailes que nos ayudan a demostrar la identidad de un grupo de personas, de un pueblo o de un país.
Well, these ethnic dances are dances that is going to help us and have the characteristic of the identity of a place, of a culture, of people. So this is one of the elements that is going to be always present in ethnic dance.
Y lo importante de estas danzas es que han permanecido vivas a través de la historia, manteniendo la identidad de una nación.
One of the most important things about these dances is they are still alive. They are still with us through history and through the dancers that are portraying them. So they are still alive today, and that is one of the elements that is most important about this dance.
Para All Dance International, las danzas étnicas las hemos dividido en dos ramas, las danzas tradicionales y aquellas danzas que son adaptaciones.
For All Dance International, we have divided this technique or these techniques into, let's say, areas. That would be traditional dances and adaptations. So both of these visions, and we're going to see a little bit about that, are included in ethnic dances in All Dance International.
Y en cada una de estas divisiones encontraremos ciertos elementos interesantes en cada una.
In each one of these proposals or these choreographies, we'll see different and important elements in each one of them.
Bien, uno de los elementos característicos de las danzas étnicas es el vestuario.
One of the elements that is very characteristic about the ethnic dances is the costume.
En ese sentido, All Dance International busca promover los elementos adecuados propios de cada una de las danzas que se presenten en escena.
In this sense, All Dance International is looking for, and the idea is to promote all the details and the elements that go according to these dances in the costume and the presentation.
procurando siempre preservar la esencia del baile tradicional.
Always looking and making an effort to keep the essence of that ethnic dance alive.
En ese sentido, las acrobacias o elementos gimnásticos no serán permitidos a excepción que la danza como tal los incluya dentro de su estructura.
In order to keep this and to actually help make it possible, the acrobatic or gymnastic elements will not be allowed except or unless the original dance or that ethnic dance includes it inside their story, inside the tradition of the dance.
En ese sentido, All Dance International tiene una gama amplia de modalidades. Si la coreografía que usted está intentando ingresar no pertenece a ninguna de estas danzas, entra en danzas étnicas.
Okay. In All Dance International, if you didn't see our first workshop, I invite you to see our first workshop where you're going to see all of the categories, all the modalities, and all the techniques. What are we going to find in ethnic dances? Well, we have a broad vision of all dance, and we have a lot of techniques and divisions. If your choreography is not already specified in one of those techniques or modalities, then it will be included in ethnic dances, of course, including that it is an ethnic dance. But some of the other techniques also include some elements that maybe your choreography will be there. So check the different categories, modalities, so you are clear that your ethnic dance and that culture belongs to this specific modality.
Bien, al momento de realizar su inscripción, es importante que nos indique a qué país o a qué región pertenece la danza folclórica que usted va a presentar.
When completing your registration, your all of your sign-in information, it is very important that you give us the information and you indicate what ethnic dance you are going to interpret according to the place, the type of dance. So we can obviously have a clear view of what you are going to present on stage.
Ya que debemos recordar que no solamente en un campeonato nacional vemos danzas de ese país, sino que también está abierto a que se presenten bailes de otras regiones.
This is important in different views, but one of them is that sometimes, and it's very common in national competitions in All Dance International, not only we're going to see the dances of that specific place that you are representing, but you can also present international ethnic dances, and it is very important to know which dance you are going to represent. And in international competitions, well, we're going to have a lot of elements, different elements, so it's going to be very important to know what you are presenting, to have the perfect and ironic judge watching and let's say revising your choreography.
Bien, debemos tomar en cuenta la importancia de la reseña. Una reseña debe ser entregada por cada coreografía a presentar.
The review he's talking about is very important that you should you should send your review of that ethnic dance you entered in your performance. So the judge has a clear view of what is your outtake for this performance.
Bien, en esta reseña vamos a indicar cuál es el punto de partida de mi baile.
In this review, the idea is to give the idea of what is your base point for this creation. not about the dance, where it was born, that information they have. You just give what dance you're going to interpret from what country, but the important part that you give us in this summary or in this review is what is your starting point? What is the idea where you're going to create this piece of dance and choreography?
Entonces, tenemos distintos puntos de partida o niveles de expresión para la danza folclórica. El primero de ellos es el baile tradicional.
We have different outtakes and different views on ethnic dances. The first one he's going to be talking about is the traditional dance.
El baile tradicional es el baile en su forma virgen, por decirlo de alguna forma, sin modificaciones, sin elementos añadidos.
The traditional dances would be considered like the virgin version of the dance, with no modifications, like it was always intended to be presented as the original. That's what we would consider traditional dance.
El siguiente punto de partida es la proyección folclórica. La proyección folclórica es cuando tomamos a ese baile tradicional y lo sacamos de su lugar y lo presentamos en otro lado.
Okay, the other version we could see are folkloric projections. This would be the dances that we take all the traditional and the basic elements of these ethnic dances, but we do some adjustments to put it on stage, to give it that stage projection. So that would be what we consider projection, folkloric projection.
En ese sentido, la proyección folclórica permite la modificación de ciertos elementos para apreciar de mejor forma el baile.
And since it's on stage, well, in this element is you can do some modifications and some adjustments in order to it to be very well viewed and to be appreciated on stage.
El siguiente nivel es la alegoría folclórica, que es tomar elementos del entorno para darle un significado de acuerdo al baile que queremos presentar.
Okay. The other view would be another, that would be the other view that we are taking that is not the traditional, but would be the allegory version of these dances. That is when we take an element, a story, when we take a representation using these dances, but we are going to represent and tell a story based on this dance. So that would be the allegory version of the ethnical dance.
Luego tenemos la fantasía folclórica. La fantasía folclórica es cuando tomamos elementos que estén en nuestra mente y lo proyectamos a través del baile.
Okay. Now we also have the folkloric fantasy. That would be when we take elements that we have in our imagination and we put them on stage and we give that attribute to the choreography.
Y por último, tenemos el show folclórico. Y en el show folclórico tomamos elementos de cada uno de los diferentes niveles y creamos una producción de mayor escala.
And the other, and the last, would be our folkloric show. This is when we take all different elements from the traditional, from the projection, all these elements, and we put it together and we combine them to do a presentation or a show that is bigger, in a bigger scale. So it has elements of different parts of these folkloric dances. So that would be the folkloric show. Now, that's on the view of the ethnic dances and what would be presented and what we could find in the ethnic dances. Now we're going to see a little bit of elements of the different levels, what is expected by the dancers, and a little bit later on, don't worry, we're going to see about the wardrobe, the costume, and some elements that are going to be very important as well in these dances. Now, We have four basic levels of dancers in All Dance International. We have the new all dancers, the student level, pre-professional, and professional level dancers. If you need more information, a little bit more about this, we have it in our first workshop. You can go back, watch it. If you have any doubts, even after that, comment below, and we'll be happy to guide you and answer all the questions you have. Now, the new all dancers will be the dancers that do not have previous experience on dance, on stage, or even in class. They're newcomers. They are just starting to develop their sense of music, their sense of spatial awareness. So these are the dancers that are just beginning. When we already have some experience on stage or in classroom, but we already have a clear view of where we're going and we have certain dominion of our body, well, then we will consider student level. There are some elements that are important for this. That would be what kind of dances you're presenting and the technical elements you are going to include in your dances. And Andres is going to tell us a little bit about that in a moment. The pre-professional level will be the dancers that starting to give choreographies, are principal dancers in performances, are part of a company, are starting to give class even to small kids. When they're giving class, but they're underage, well, then we will consider them pre-professionals. When these dancers are giving teaching classes or part of a company, a professional company, and are over 18 years old, well, then we will consider them professional dancers. And this is the idea for every dancer to have a very just qualification and a just and fair competition. So we want everybody to be a very competitive, but in a very healthy, competitive way. So how can we achieve that? It is very important to be honest about the level of our dancers, what they are presenting, how much have they already danced, because when we win any award or win any achievement in life, if we do not do it honestly, it loses all value and all meaning. So that is very important for us as a team, as a dance family, to look for that in the dancers, and from us, it will be taught on to the next generation. So that's very important. Now, we also have some open levels that can combine different levels of dancers, like the student open, where we can share the stage, new all dancers with student dancers, and they can be in the same performance or choreography. We also have our open pro level, where we can see pre-professional dancers dancing with professional dancers on stage all together. And we have our open pro, our open, all levels, all ages, in open production, large groups. This is when we can have even a new all dancer dancing with a professional dancer. For some choreographies, for any reason that you have, that is up to you, your creativity. You might want to combine some of your professional dancers with your student dancers, with your new all dancers, with your pre-professional. So if you wish to do so, no problem. That's why we have this open level for those choreographies and those performances. Now, we're going to ask Andres a little bit about how the specific dances can maybe guide you in where your dancer should be, and what are the elements that may have importance of changing one level to the other. So, Andrés, cuéntanos un poquito de eso.
Correcto. Bien. Cuando hablamos de los niveles para nuestra competencia de All Dance International, buscamos que las coreografías vayan de acuerdo a las capacidades de cada uno de los bailarines.
Okay, so when we're talking about levels, in All Dance International, we're looking and we expect the choreography to go hand by hand with the abilities of the dancer that is performing the choreography.
En el caso de New All Dancers, lo que buscamos es que los que estén inscritos en este nivel puedan manejar coreografías que sean conocidas como las binarias o las coreografías de bailes planos.
Okay, so in the case of new all dancers, it will be expected, and the idea for them, since they are beginning dancers and they're just starting, the music that they're going to be using is not a very complex music. It's a binary music, or what we call a plain choreography that has simple movements, simple music, and that would be one of the elements that will be present in the new All Dancers level.
En el caso de niveles de estudiantes y preprofesionales, los niveles y las cualidades de la danza van a aumentar en dificultad, asimismo como en los elementos utilizados en la técnica.
In student and pre-professional level, we're talking about dancers that already have a little more development in the technique and the work. So here we're going to expect a little more, and some elements are going to be coming more difficult music-wise, technically, and all the elements in the choreography will go up and up depending, of course, on the abilities of the dancers that perform the choreography.
En el nivel profesional, entonces entendemos que ese bailarín tiene la capacidad de poder ejecutar cualquier danza étnica que él se proponga en el escenario sin que represente dificultad alguna.
In the professional level, we expect the dancers to be able to perform any ethnic dance of their election and with ease, and they can interpret it and make it look easy, even if it's not. So that's one of the things that the judges will be looking for and expecting in the professional level.
En ese sentido, al momento de seleccionar el nivel, se confía mucho en el criterio del coreógrafo o del director para saber identificar en qué nivel debe estar inscrita dicha coreografía.
So here is very important the criteria of the choreographer or the director that is going to choose which level the dancer is in. Of course, regarding his or her ability, and also where he is at dance, and if he's already teaching, if the things I said before, if he should be in what level, and of course, we should consider that level of the dancer for the choreography and obviously for the registration. Okay, so that would be the elements that are important that they will be looking for and that will help determine the level of the dancer. Of course, honesty being important part of this process of election of the levels for the dancers. Okay, now we spoke a little bit about the levels. Now let's move on to a question that always comes up. What is our scoring method? How are the dancers evaluated? How are they, let's say, guided? Now, we have a judge panel of 3 judges per choreography. A total maximum points that could be awarded to a dance or a choreography would be 100 points. 70 of these points could be given by the modality judge. The other 30 points could be awarded by the complementary judge. And we have a deduction judge that is always there, making sure that there's fair play, that every one of the rules in our regulation are being complied, and that everybody has a fair and a very equal way of being judged. So let's see what they have in mind for this. And the first thing is that we have certain rates. So you'll see in a bit that not every category and not every item that they will be looking has the same value, but we do manage ranks. So there's an average, let's say, that is expected from the dancers. So that would be like the average qualification they have to know. Now, we can always go above average. We can go and look always to go higher than that. And sometimes we still have to work on some elements and maybe below average in those specific criteria. It's not an overall, each criteria has a specific thing that each judge is looking for, and that's what we're going to see in a bit. And that together will give us the overall score of the choreography or the presentation. So here we're going to see what are the criteria he or she is looking for and how it can apply and how I can make each one of these criteria have a better score and maybe go above average, okay? Now, one of the elements that we're looking for is the specific technique. where we're looking that the correct modality is chosen and executed on stage. So that means all the elements that Andres told us earlier, the elements that are present in our ethnic dances should be present in your performance. If that is so, well, then we will have a very good qualification here. But if it doesn't correspond, well, maybe we'll have the low average qualification, and maybe have other items that we have to work on for that specific criteria. We also have the technical level. The technical level of the dancer when he is performing his choreography, the technique he is using in this choreography. The execution, we're going to be looking for synchronization. When it's more than one dancer, synchronized dancing, how they are moving together as a group, well, it says by itself, self-explanatory. We are also looking for the skills in the dancer in this execution. How is he executing the movements? Are they clear? So what are we seeing? And it is clear with what they are presenting and the choreography. Another element that is important is the difficulty. Here we're going to look for extraordinary movements and elements of risk. Each dance will have different elements that will make it risky or have extraordinary movements. We're not referring to doing gymnastic elements or acrobatic elements. Remember, in ethnic dances, that's not what we're looking for. Ethnic dances have some other principles, have their specific essence, and these elements are not part of that essence. So here, we're not speaking that you have to do elements of difficulty in that sense, but difficulty inside the technique you choose to portray on stage, okay? So we're gonna ask Andres a little bit about these and how maybe they can apply a little more specifically in the criteria of ethnic dances. If you have questions, remember, we have a chat, you can be asking questions. If not, if you're watching this later on YouTube, well, you can ask in the comments and we'll be happy to comply and answer any questions you have. So, Andrés, cuéntanos un poco de estos criterios en específicos, cómo podemos aplicar.
Sí, correcto. Bien, cuando hablamos de la técnica y hablamos de la modalidad, debemos tomar en cuenta 4 elementos importantes. La sonorización, que hace referencia al tipo de música y a todo sonido que está en la coreografía.
Okay, so one of the elements that is going to be a part is all the music, the sounds, all the elements that are part of the choreography.
Cuando hablamos de la técnica, hacemos referencia a los elementos básicos, a los elementos técnicos que se utilicen para desarrollar ese baile.
In the technical, he's going to be looking for and referring to all the technical elements that are part of this dance and part of the essence of this dance should be present and well executed.
El tercer elemento es el contexto de la danza, sabiendo que nos están expresando lo que realmente significa dicho baile.
The other element important in the modality is the context of which the performance is taking place. The context of the choreography and of let's say, the historical content of this performance inside the style of dance or ethnic dance that he or she choose to portray.
Y por último, tenemos el vestuario, el cual debe ir de acorde a la técnica utilizada y de acorde al contexto del baile como tal.
Another thing that's going to be important in this modality for it to be completely accurate is also the costume, the wardrobe that is used in this performance, because the wardrobe and the costume are part of that history, are part of the dance and what makes it part of the culture.
Cuando hablamos de la ejecución y hacemos referencia a la sincronización y a la destreza, esto nos lleva principalmente al nivel técnico que se utilice al desarrollar el baile.
When we're talking about execution, about synchronization and skill, what we're talking about is the the ability, the execution, as the name says, how you are doing and how the dancer is executing all the elements in his or her choreography.
La sincronización se aplica principalmente a grupos grandes, de tríos en adelante, en donde se busca que todos los movimientos sean realizados de forma unánime, por así decirlo.
In synchronization, we'll be looking for, obviously, in choreographies of more than one dancer, from duets, trios, small groups, and of course, large groups. That's going to make it a little more difficult. But the idea is for it to be clear, the synchronization at the same time, or what time are you interpreting and doing your movement. So that's going to be an important part in the execution as well.
En cuanto a las destrezas, a la skill, buscamos que si se aplican durante la coreografía, mantengan siempre el mismo nivel de intensidad.
In skills, one of the things that we'll be looking is that the intensity, the energy of the elements in the choreography can maintain from the beginning to the end, not change that skill and execution, but from it to be present from the beginning to the end of the performance.
En el caso de la dificultad, ponemos una especial atención en la velocidad de la ejecución de algunos movimientos.
In difficulty, one of the elements that is primary and that we'll see a lot in these dances is the speed in which it's executed in the performance.
Dependiendo del baile, la velocidad es un elemento que se considera extraordinario o un elemento de riesgo.
Depending on the dance, sometimes speed is one of the elements that's considered extraordinary movement or a risky element.
No todos los bailes poseen elementos extraordinarios. Sin embargo, aquellos que los tienen hay que tener especial atención para ejecutarlos de forma adecuada.
Since every dance has different elements of risk and extraordinary movements, the dances that have extraordinary movements that are of complex execution should be very well executed and look at the technical execution of those extraordinary or difficult elements in the choreography. Okay, so these are the elements that we find here. Now the other elements and the other, let's say, things that the modality judge, is going to be looking for and using are these criteria. So in musicality, we're going to be looking for the musical interpretation. So how is that dancer going to be, how is he using the music? And the music per se, the music you choose for this dance and if it's according to your ethnic dance. The choreography, in choreography we're going to look for costume. Is the costume according to the choreography? Is it according to the style, to the timeline, to every element? And the complexity of the choreography, not of the elements in the choreography, so we saw that in difficulty. Here's the complexity of the choreography as a total. And the creativity, we're always looking for creative elements in All Dance International, and that's why we're here today. So how are we going to use all these elements that everybody has the same conditions and the same elements, and how are we going to apply it in a way that is unique? And of course, generate good entertainment for everybody that is watching, and of course for the dancer who is also dancing and performing, or the dancers. So these are some other elements that are going to be looked for, are expected, and are going to be evaluated. So Andres is going to give us a little maybe view on some of the elements specifically in these criteria.
Bien, en cuanto a la musicalidad, lo que buscamos preferiblemente es la manera en que se domina la música en el escenario.
In musicality and music interpretation, what they're looking for is specifically how you interpret the music and how you use this music on stage.
buscando siempre la armonía entre movimientos y entre música.
Always looking for that harmony in that goes between dance, the movement, and the music.
En cuanto a música, lo que buscamos es que la edición musical esté elaborada de forma adecuada, tomando en cuenta el tiempo de presentación.
In music, we're looking for that the music is according to obviously the timeline that we have to present, the choreographic time, that if we are doing any modifications to the music, they are well done in the music, and of course, as I was saying before, the election of the music for the choreography you're performing.
El vestuario es uno de los elementos más importantes de la danza étnica.
In costume is one of the most important elements in ethnic dance.
Y lo que buscamos es que el mismo sea expresado en una línea como inspiración del baile original o tradicional.
And one of the things that is important to keep in mind is that costume should have the same line and should be according to the original traditional costume for that dance. So the design should be inspired and keep that same line of that is from the original traditional dance.
Recordando siempre que lo que debemos tomar en cuenta la funcionalidad de los elementos que va a tener el vestuario, evitando caer siempre en los excesos.
Always keeping in mind that these elements and the elements that we choose to put in maybe a addition should be working on favor of the choreography and the performance and not work against it. So they all should have a reason and should contribute to that performance and not, by the other hand, make it more difficult or have it not work in favor or work against the choreography.
Se debe procurar siempre mantener la estructura del vestuario original, agregándole esos pequeños elementos que lo hagan vistoso.
Always maintain the original structure of that costume, maybe putting additional elements that will make it more visual for the performance, especially on stage, but always keeping that principle and that original structure of the costume.
En este sentido, debemos tener cuidado de que los elementos que estamos añadiendo no perjudique el desempeño técnico de los bailarines.
Always looking for that those elements that we are putting, adding to the costume do not make it more difficult or make it impossible for the dancer to execute the technique correctly.
Esto va de la mano con el nivel de complejidad de la coreografía, la cual debe ser principalmente inspirada en la coreografía tradicional.
That's going to be and go in hand with the complexity of the choreography that should be also according to the original structure and original traditional dance that you are using for your performance.
Cuando hablamos de la creatividad, hacemos énfasis justamente en cómo se le den esos elementos extras al baile tradicional.
In creativity, one of the things and the especially important here is all those other elements that we're adding and how we are using all those elements that we are using to complete and to maybe have a different view on this this specific dance. How are we using them? Okay, so how are we incorporating to our choreography and to our performance in that specific dance style or ethnic dance?
Next.
Okay, and that would be, these elements are the principal elements that our modality judge is going to be looking for, and this judge is also going to be the judge that is going to give a feedback to each dancer, to each performer, to each choreography, if it's group or soloist, so they know what elements they can keep on working. And obviously, when you have your scores back, you'll also see in these criteria where I'm doing a very good job, where maybe I'm exceeding the expectations and I'm above average, and where some elements I need to work. So that's important, and that will help you make it your next performance even better. Now, the other thing that is important, but is not actually giving a score, but is very important for us, and that we are always keeping in mind and always trying to make sure that all the creative process that goes behind a choreography is always respected. In this sense, what we are looking for is that we respect the intellectual property of the performances created by other choreographers. So it's important that when you are presenting a performance, a choreography, the choreography should be created by you, created by the choreographer, and presented by the dancers. One thing is inspiration and take inspiration, and another thing is to copy these dances just like somebody else created them. So here, in some ethnic dances that may have a different influence, but it is still important to respect that creative process of other choreographers, not necessarily of the original dance, but of other choreographers. Now, Andres is going to give us a little bit more insight in this specific element.
Correcto. Debemos tomar en cuenta que algunas danzas étnicas, por su nivel de reconocimiento, ya tienen estructuras creadas por ciertas agrupaciones.
Some ethnical dances, by tradition, and have already, by year through year, being presented, and by some important, let's say, dancers or companies, have already, let's say, a structure that is normally present in these type of dances.
En este sentido, debemos de buscar, identificar cuál es la estructura básica de esos bailes.
And we should look and see and identify what is the basic structure of that dance.
Y así evitar copiar estructuras, copiar transiciones, de manera que evitemos el plagio.
And that way, we can be aware that we are not copying structures, we're not copying sequences and performance, part of the performance, but we are keeping and we're respecting the original structure, and we're creating something unique from there. Okay, so these would be part of the elements that's very important to keep the choreography obviously creative and not go in step and maybe infringement of intellectual property. Okay, now I told you we have another judge. We have our complementary judge. Now the complementary judge can give a maximum of 30 points. Here on the right side, you can see the points that can be maximum awarded, and you can see that each criteria does not have the same, let's say, score, but you can always see what is the top score. Now, we're going to be looking for the space use. How? The use of the space, per se, how you use it, if you use it, not necessarily fill it up, because a group of 40 dancers will fill this whole stage, but how do we use it? Do we go forward, back? Do we use the diagonals? Do we use every part and every space inside the space? The formations, are they clear? Are we staying in one formation? Are we changing formations? Are we using the levels, high level, medium level, low level? How are we using the levels in our performance and our choreography? And also the transition. How are we using the movement from one place to the other? The movement and changing of the formations. Are we walking? Are we dancing? How are we doing those transitions? And in image, we're going to be looking for the creativity, the use of accessories if needed and how they are used, the makeup that should always be present, because part of taking a choreography to the stage and to a competition, to a performance, well, that production is going to be part of the elements that are going to be scored and obviously looked for. And in general, the visual aesthetic. How do all these elements work together, come together to create a visual aesthetic that is not only good, but according to the dance and goes according to that idea and what you are trying to explore and bring to stage in your performance. So Andres will give us maybe some little details that could go specifically with ethnic dances and maybe complete or enlighten some other view of these criteria.
Bien, cuando hablamos del uso del escenario, lo que procuramos es que nuestra danza sea lo suficientemente dinámica de manera que se pueda apreciar en todo el escenario.
When we talk about the use of space, one of the things he says is we're looking for the dynamic, that a choreography is dynamic in the use of this space. So that's going to be also something that will be important in the use of the space.
Y procurar siempre que nuestras formaciones y transiciones se vean limpias en el caso de los grupos que son de 3 personas en adelante.
In the formation and the transitions, one of the things that's going to be important is that they are clear, that they are clean. So how are we moving and what places we're getting to that is clear, that the formations are obviously understood, and this is going to apply obviously for multiple dancers on stage at the time.
No todas las danzas aplican para transiciones o para uso de niveles. En ese sentido, procurar ejecutar los elementos principales de forma adecuada.
Not all dances use levels and transitions in the same way and the same magnitude. So it is respected, and obviously that's why the judge is according to the style. So keep in mind that if the levels are used, we'll include them. If the transitions are used, include them. But it maintains the structure of the choreography and use the possibilities in that style you are executing.
En el caso de la imagen, lo que buscamos es que la presencia del bailarín en escena sea similar en cuanto a visión a lo que representa el baile tradicional.
In creativity and image, and one of the things that an image that is looking for is that the dancer or the dancers in their presentation go according to and are actually accurate with the idea and with the choreography they are presenting on stage.
En ese sentido, el maquillaje y los accesorios deben ser de acordes a lo que se utiliza en el vestuario tradicional.
Keeping that in mind, the makeup and the accessories should complement and should be according to what is used and the aesthetic used in that traditional dance.
Al momento de utilizar ciertos accesorios, debemos de buscar siempre la funcionalidad de los mismos en el baile.
When we are looking to use accessories in the choreography and the performance, it's very important that you use that you keep in mind and take care that they are functional, that they help and they work in that performance to tell the story, to help the context and the dance in general.
De este modo, debemos tomar en cuenta que el uso de algunos accesorios puede comprometer nuestro rendimiento en escena.
Keeping that in mind, some use of some accessories may make it not so easy and make it more difficult for the dancer to perform their choreography and work against them.
La estética visual de la presentación va más allá de una simple combinación de colores, sino a la armonía de la presentación en general.
The visual aesthetics goes more importantly than looking at the colors that they're using, but the whole conglomerate of the elements and the aesthetics used in the choreography. Not the colors, not those basic elements, but the whole harmony of these elements, how they work together and they come together to work for the idea, the choreography, and the performance.
Además,
No, sigue.
No,
¿Quieres
no.
algo más?
No, es que me equivoqué de diapositiva. Vamos a la siguiente. Es la que viene. Ahora sí.
Okay. So moving on, the other elements that the complimentary judge is going to be looking for and the criteria are regarding the performance, the projection, and the public. Now, in the performance projection, what is the judge looking for? What are the criteria that are guiding us? Because we are guided also by rules and what we are sharing here today with you. Now, one, the gestuality, the expression. How is that dancer or dancers communicating what they are trying to say or what the choreographer wants them to say? Now, this will come eye contact, in the body language. If we have obviously a mask, it's going to be a little more difficult, and rely on eye contact, on body language. If we do not need it because maybe our regulation at the time does not require it, well then that will be a part also in including, sorry, this is crazy. So the gestuality is very important to communicate and to connect. The authenticity of the character. Now this is very important, and especially in these dances. Am I portraying correctly? Am I portraying the character, the story, the context that should be present in my performance? The force of the movement. Is the movement clear? Is the movement precise? Is the movement well executed and correctly executed for the style and what is looked for in that specific dance or style of dance? Is it sharp? Should it be soft? Should it be slow? Should it be forceful? Should it be very fluid? So these elements are going to be here looked at and evaluated. And we have the interpretation. So the interpretation goes a long way and goes and has more than one element present, and is going to be also in accordance to all how these elements work together and how the dancer is communicating, how he is looking and how he is connecting with the audience and how he is interpreting the character, the story, and everything in the choreography, how he's bringing it to life. And we have the public response that actually isn't evaluated by our complimentary judge, but we bring to our, let's say, our judging table, all the public, parents, friends, choreographers, public in general, to come and give support to these dancers. How? Live through chat. If you're at the stage, well, applause. Before the championship, on social media, giving him all your love, giving him all the likes, and being there supporting these dancers, because that is part of the energy that they receive on stage and is part of what makes a dancer a dancer. So these are the other elements the complimentary judge will be looking for. So Andres is going to give us a little more outtake, specifically, on ethnic dances, how this could affect and how it could be looked at.
Correcto. La danza folclórica tiene tres grandes pilares: la técnica, el vestuario y la expresión.
Okay. Ethnic dances has, let's say, like 3 pillars that are very important. One of them being the technique, the other being the costume and the wardrobe, and the third being the expression.
En este sentido, la expresión del bailarín va a ser primordial para poder entender el contexto del baile.
In this, the expression of the dancer is going to be very important to understand the context and the story that is in the performance.
Lo que buscamos es que la teatralidad de la danza sea expresada de forma adecuada al concepto de la misma danza.
What we're looking for is the theatrical element in the choreography to be according to that essence, that story, and the context, what this choreography and this performance is trying to communicate.
Y que haciendo uso del lenguaje no verbal, el bailarín pueda expresar los sentimientos y emociones que la danza tradicional ofrece en su forma original.
And using this non-verbal language that the dancer can express and communicate all these emotions and all these feelings that go with the traditional dance specifically the one you choose to portray.
De igual
So
manera, tomar en cuenta que cada danza tiene una esencia distinta, sea expresando alegría, sea expresando cortejo.
Also keep in mind that every dance has different essence, and that's the essence that we're looking to keep. Some of them are happy, and some of them are festive. Some of them are about the cortejo. I forgot the word. Sorry. About the context of the mating. Sorry, the mating ritual. So every one of these ethnic dances has that essence, and depending on the essence that you choose, well, that should be part of the expression and should be interpreted by the dancers and the choreographers.
De igual manera, tenemos danzas que se usan de forma de ritual. De igual manera, estas danzas tienen una expresión y tienen una gestualidad particular.
We also have dances that are ritual. These rituals and these dances also have a specific and form of expression that should be in their performance.
Y el bailarín, a través de su expresión, podrá demostrarnos de qué trata la danza o coreografía que nos presenta.
And through this interpretation and through all these elements, the dancer is going to communicate to the public and to everybody and tell the story and give that context and keep that essence.
En cuanto a la respuesta del público, lo que se espera es justo un carácter de fiesta, de alegría que exprese la tradición de su coreografía.
And in public, well, the idea is for the public to be able to also share and be and that have that joyful element that is part of our traditional and ethnic dance.
Tomando como punto de partida que las coreografías folclóricas son dinámicas como la población.
Keeping in mind and having accordance to that, the traditional and ethnic dances are dynamic as people are. So that's a very beautiful element. And thank you very much for it. Okay. Now, we already told you the modality judge and complementary judge, how you can get more points. Now, we have our deduction judge that is always there looking for the dancers to have equal rights, for it to be fair play, to keep that everybody is according to the rules and, well, we have a very clear and just result. Now, one of the elements that's going to be here is wrong modality. Here, all the elements that Andres has shared with us, that it makes a dance, an ethnic dance, should be present. If a ethnic dance does not have enough elements, they are present to be considered an ethnic dance, and on the other hand, should be in another one of our modalities and has if different elements that are not part of ethnic dances, well, then you will have a deduction for that element. If it just is, it has a little bit of elements that go a little bit out of the modality, but it's still in this essence here correctly, well, you won't have a deduction. The modality judge will give you the modality for accordingly to that content of your choreography. We also have the wrong division. That's when we don't have the correct division in our registration. The division is according to the age of the dancers. So if you have any questions about this, remember in our first workshop, we went over this very detailed. If not, go up to our organic code online and you can see all our divisions and where you can apply the age for your dancers correctly. We have divisions for all ages, for all mix of ages, so don't worry, it's just to be accurate when the dancers are doing their registration. Wrong levels. Remember, we talked about the new all dancers, the student dancers, the professional dancers. If we have a professional dancer dancing with students, where should they be? If the professional dancer is dancing with pre-professionals, where should they be? So just look at what levels the dancers are in the performance and choose the level according to that. Late arrival on stage. When we are called to perform, we should be ready. How do we know when we should perform? We have a program that is sent to you beforehand where you can see an approximate time where you'll have to dance. Sometimes this time goes a little early, sometimes it goes a little bit later, but it's an approximate time and we should be ready with at least 1 hour ready so we can be there on time if the event maybe goes faster than scheduled, or we have to dance, well, not at the exact time. Remember, it's an approximate time. We have false routine start. When we are on stage ready to dance and for some reason we start the choreography and have to stop and ask to repeat. So if the dancer listens to the music and starts dancing, he goes forward. Don't stop, don't go back, keep going. And this is part of what we are experiencing and gives us as dancers all that experience, how we manage these situations. Forbidden elements. The forbidden elements are considered elements that are going to endanger the stage, that might endanger for the dancer on stage or the dancers after him or her. For example, what? Water, elements that contain dust, elements that contain oily substance that can make the floor slippery or can make the floor just unsafe for other dancers. So that will be considered forbidden elements. So we should be very careful of what we choose to bring on stage on a competitive environment. Excessive use of acrobatic or gymnastic elements. Remember, we talked about how many elements we could use in ethnic dances. We shouldn't use unless it's part of the dance. So if we choose to use acrobatic elements, well, then we will have a deduction for that. So just keep it to the regulations and no problem there. Makeup, body paint, inappropriate, obscene, or offensive clothing. The clothing should be appropriate for the dance, appropriate for the age level, and appropriate for the other performers on stage also. So body paint. One thing is when we use paint on our face, but body paint, we're talking about body painting that has a complete body painting that will endanger the floor for the other dancers, maybe dirty the floor for the other costumes, or sometimes the body painting is an artistic expression and we use it without clothes underneath. That is a very beautiful artistic expression, but not for this particular stage or environment. Poorly executed elements. Here and modality are one of the elements that this is going to complete to us in a bit, because poorly executed elements are one of the elements that can give deductions that are regarding the technical execution of the performance and of the performers in these choreographies. Since we're bringing all these elements to stage, we do have high expectations of the execution of the elements presented in the choreography. Any tripping or falling. If we trip, if we stumble, if we almost fall but can get back and continue without further trouble, well, we'll have a deduction of 0.5. If we fall completely, if we cannot recuperate and not continue with the element, we fall, well, then we'll have 1 point of deduction. Throwing items to the public. We should not throw any element at the public, soft, hard, nothing. If we have a hat and we're going to take it off and we want it off stage, not front to the public, we can put it behind the curtain on stage, but we should not throw it to the public or in front of the stage. Inappropriate language or music. The music and the language used in the music should be according and should be respectful for all ethnicities, for all sexual inclinations, for doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your gender, it should be for everybody, it should be respectful, and it should not have bad words or content in it. And the same for inappropriate movement. One of the elements is that we're a family focused competition and organization. The idea is for everybody from all cultures, from all age groups, can enjoy and can sit and actually enjoy these performances without or feeling offended or having a very sexual content in these performances. So these are the two elements that are going to be very, very strongly looked for and respectful for everybody, because one of the things important in fair play and in dance is that we respect everybody, every culture, and we are very according to that in our philosophy and how we portray it on stage as well. So, Andrés, ¿qué nos puedes contar un poquito sobre todo de los elementos que aplican específicamente a la modalidad de danzas étnicas de los criterios de deducción?
Sí, debemos tomar en cuenta que algunas danzas étnicas folclóricas requieren que partes del cuerpo sean maquilladas, sean pintadas. Eso no quiere decir que va a meritar una deducción.
One of the things he's saying is that we are aware that some of the ethnic dances include body painting, and it's part of the dance. That doesn't mean if you use that body paint, it's going to be have a deduction. It should be part of the dance, and it should be applied in a way that you will not endanger the stage or other dancers. But if you use it and it's part of the choreography, it will not have a deduction. Just use it respectfully for other dancers.
Aquí es donde vemos la importancia de presentar la reseña del baile que usted está presentando.
That's one of the important elements of presenting this review we were talking about earlier of your performance and what you are going to be taking to stage.
De igual manera, hay algunos bailes que por el contexto del mismo incluyen gran parte de movimientos eróticos, sin caer en lo vulgar.
Other dances have an intention of movement that is very, let's say, sensual and erotic without being explicitly sexual content. Now, that is respected. Now we have to see what elements of that ethnic dance we are including that is respectful without going overboard on the explicit sexual content, but keeping it on the let's say, sensual part, not sexual.
En el caso de los elementos que se tomen prestado de otras danzas, procurar siempre que sean ejecutados de forma correcta.
On the elements that we might add or incorporate to our performance that are, let's say, borrowed from other techniques, we should be careful that we are executing them correctly and respecting the original technique that we are incorporating to our performance.
Si ese elemento técnico es utilizado y es ejecutado de forma incorrecta, esto definitivamente va a afectar su calificación.
If that element you choose to incorporate in using your performance is not executed in the correct technique from which you are taking it from, well, it will have a deduction on the execution for the executed elements. So keep in mind too, if you're taking them borrowed, well, a good execution will take you a long way.
En ese sentido, el coreógrafo o director debe saber si corre el riesgo de incluir ese elemento técnico en su coreografía.
So part of the election and choose these elements, well, the choreographer will have to choose if this element, and he is going to take the risk of putting it in the choreography, risking the execution. So if you're using it, well, the execution should be correctly. If not, maybe don't take the risk or work on it. I don't know, but the risk is obviously up to the dancer and up to the choreographer.
En otras danzas debemos recordar también que la intención del baile como tal me exige incluir algunos elementos.
In other dances, we have to remember that the intention of the dance will make us include some other elements.
We can continue.
Okay. The other, let's see, criteria that could incur in deduction are a little more general, but likewise apply to everybody. So accidents or fallings of clothing. If we have accessories, if we have things in our hand, if we have things on our costumes, well, make them that they are very secure sew them, pin them, I don't know, glue them on so they don't fall during the choreography. So I recommend to rehearse with all the elements you're going to be performing with so this does not happen. Any damage or untidy clothing. How we present ourselves is very important. So since we are on stage, how is our hair? Do we have maybe shoelaces untied? Do we have accessories that do not belong to the costume? Do we have, let's say, our underwear visible? All those little elements that make a costume untidy or may be damaged on stage. Inappropriate choreography to the vision. Keep your choreography age appropriate. Multi-sonants at the start, middle, or end of the routine. This is regard of euphoric expressions, let's say when we try to cheer up the crowd and make them get aroused with sounds, not just our dance and our expression. And the other element is having inside our performance, our music or dancers include in the performance the name of the group, the crew, or the studio. So the idea is for the dance to have its own expression, its own life, and not depend on these elements. So we are not allowing them on stage. Some elements in these dances use sometimes, let's say, sounds. Those will be a little bit different, and Andres can tell us a little bit more about that, but that would not be considered an altisonance if it's part of the choreography and the intention and essence of that performance. When we leave elements on stage, if we have our hat, if we have, I don't know, any element that we're using, a basket, something, if we use it and drop it on stage or we put it down for any reason, when we leave stage, we should leave with the elements we brought on stage with us. So it's important to leave the stage as we found it or as we would like it to be found. So when we leave, take our stuff with us. If it fell, try to teach the dancers to look back, see what they left on stage, and take it with them. It's part of our job as choreographers and teachers as well. Use of scenery. The idea in all dance is that the choreography in all its essence and all its harmony can tell us the story, can place us in a space, in a timeline, and tell us the story through the dance, through the makeup, through the wardrobe, through all the elements that we are including, that we've been talking about. When we use elements that are just there for decoration, that is what we will consider the scenery. The ideas, the elements. If you're going to use something, it's part of the choreography, at least in 30% of the choreography, not just there to look pretty or to give, let's say, the idea that we're in one place or the other. So in a competitive environment, the idea is the elements that we are going to put on stage is because they are part of the choreography and essential to the movements of the choreography. It's public obstruction of judgment. The idea is for our public and all our audience to be very respectful and supportful of the dancers. In this way, they should also pretend to do, when they are applauding, when they are supporting the dancers in a respectful manner. When they are dancing, it should keep the cheers and all the support to applause and to a considerate level of volume so the judges, the public, and the dancer as well can listen to the music and do his or her choreography in a correct and enjoyable manner. Before the choreography, after the choreography, you can let go, you can applaud, you can scream, you can do anything, but we try to also educate our public to be very respectful of the dancers and permit a good visualization of it and the dancers to be able to dance correctly and enjoy the performance. When we get off or jump off stage, the idea is we can only go on or off stage through the places that are marked and specifically adjusted for that. Not jump off the stage, not get off through any other way that is not marked or is advised by the championship and the location that we are in. Routine time. We have depending on the division you are dancing, if it's a solo, it's duo, trio, group, we have a specific time for each choreography for everybody to have equal opportunity and equal, let's say, rules for everybody. So try not to go over that time because it will have a deduction and it will have a very negative effect on the performance. So every 5 seconds we'll have 3 points down of what you have already got. So please keep to the time in the choreographic time that is adjusted for every division. Intellectual property, that one we talked about earlier, and it would be reflected here, but the modality judge is the one that is going to be looking and proceeding that element in specific. Also, any regulation infringement can also be part of the deduction in the competition in general. And an increase in unreported dancers. If we have 6 dancers reported in our registration, 6 should be on stage. If 7, 8, 9 dancers are performing, well, this will have a deduction. And it's very important. If you have to make any changes for any reason, it is communicated on time, correctly, and by writing to our organization on time for it to be valid in the choreography. Okay, so these are the elements of deduction. We'll see if Andres has anything he wants to add or complete to this information that can be useful for the category of ethnic dance.
No, en esta parte de las deducciones también se aplican para danzas étnicas, así que no hay ninguna aclaración pertinente en esta parte.
Okay. In these specific criteria, it applies same for ethnic dances as for other dances, so nothing to add and put here additional of what we have already talked about. So basically, these are the elements and all the information we have to share with you that will help you and guide you in the election of what category you should be in, and also help in that creative process, because the knowledge is going to be the fuel that is going to activate all that elements and be part of the creative process. So here is the principal element that we need. It's the knowledge. Now, how we're going to put that knowledge to work for us, well, that goes up to the originality and all of that creative work that each and one of you have, and all that imagination that is going to make every performance unique, wonderful, and enjoyable. So that is all the elements. As we were saying, we are so happy to be here with you guys. If you're connected on YouTube, well, go back. You can see our other workshops because we have a lot of information to share. Stand by because we still have more, and we're going to be bringing a lot of our specialty judges and staff here to share with us and to enlighten us and make us a little more intellectual about these dances and learn about different dances maybe that we don't even know about, but everything we learn is going to be a very, very rich part of our process as choreographers, dancers, and as people. So thank you very much, Andres, for that passion, for that love, and for sharing all this knowledge and all this information about these wonderful dances with us.
Quiero agradecerle a la organización Olas International, a María Fernanda Castro, por la oportunidad de ofrecer estos talleres tan importantes para el desarrollo de las coreografías en competencia.
Thank you also. He wants to thank All Dance and Maria Fernanda for these workshops and making them possible and bringing them to you, because this is one of the elements that is going to help and is going to help grow these dances on stage and in competition. So thank you very much as well. Remember,
recordarle también a todos los coreógrafos que no teman a presentar una coreografía étnica. Recuerden que la competencia de la coreografía étnica es el baile tradicional.
And to remind every one of the choreographers not to be afraid to present ethnic dances, traditional dances, because it's one of the elements is that to bring on stage and to keep alive these dances. So take a risk, go ahead, perform them, and make them your own as well, and share them with the public. So that's the other element. Muchas gracias, Andres. Remember, all our workshops, they're in Panama time, And we're also going to have them on YouTube, so connect with us. These are specialty judges, all our dates. So see you very soon. Gracias All Dance International. Thank you, Andres, and thank you all for being present and for connecting with us. Anything you have to say, remember in the comments, we'll be glad to be in contact with you. Good afternoon, good day, and good night to everyone.